This is the Astrology and Tarot Show with Jessica Adams.
Thanks, Shane. Here is your Astrology and Tarot for the week starting Monday, June 29. If you want to see the 12 signs with timestamps, pick up this podcast at the Astrology and Tarot Show on substack.com. Now your tarot. Aries, the lovers. Taurus, the Ace of Pentacles. Gemini, the Three of Wands. Cancer, the Ace of Wands. Leo, the Star. Virgo, the King of Pentacles. Libra, the World. Scorpio, the Emperor. Sagittarius, the Two of Swords. Capricorn, Strength. Aquarius, the Empress. And Pisces, the King of Swords. Now, if you have Leo factors in your chart, Jupiter enters Leo for the first time in 12 years on June 30. That's good news for you for about the next 12 months with big solutions for dating, the bedroom, babies, infants, school children, teenagers, and younger adults. And the more that you have in Leo in your chart, the better the big answers become. Aries. With all close relationships from June 30, for one night or a lifetime, ask yourself if you would say this or do this if you knew that you had 12 more months of really big opportunities and solutions. Then ask yourself why you should be more hopeful. Jupiter in Leo is landing the biggest and best romance cycle in 12 years. This planetary cycle is about solving any issues, opening doors, and increasing the luck factors. Jupiter is in your solar fifth house of dating, the bedroom, and also parenthood. Let's substitute parenthood too, like teaching, until the middle of 2027. So what is the fifth house? Well, basically it's ruled by Leo and astrology. This is about your heirs, your spares, and the pretenders to your throne. So it's about your children, any stepchildren, godchildren, young relatives, or if there are no children or teenagers in your world at all, it's about the next generation as a whole that you leave your legacy to. If you have anything in Leo and your horoscope areas, then this is extremely personal for you as you are king or queen to a younger court, and that court will grow bigger over the next 12 months. Whatever your personal life situation is, Jupiter has a reputation for being a big Mr. Fix-It of astrology. He has had that reputation for about 2,000 years. In fact, the Romans called him best and greatest. Even in Asia, Jupiter had his own name and was considered to be a lucky star. Of course, Jupiter is 2,000 years old and counting as you're listening to this, and things have moved on, but he is still very much associated in astrology with expansion. And things are likely to get big quite quickly for you in July and August, Aries, because not only Jupiter, but also the Sun is passing through Leo. And then, as if that wasn't enough, in the final week of July, we have the South Node going into Leo. So you are owed good karma from 18 or 19 years ago, and it's about to land. Taurus, you now have Mars and Uranus in your money and real estate zone. Mars is in your finance zone in your birth chart, and Uranus is in your finance zone in your solar chart. So personally and publicly, you have the same sector of your horoscope being triggered. From this week, you also have lucky Jupiter in your home, real estate, and property zone. So something better change, and it will. Is the issue behind all of this your vision of being free, being independent, and having real liberty in your life? Or is it something else? If you really do just want independence, then the energy is there for it to go forward, Taurus. And there may be a life-changing choice once Mars and Uranus team up. What does it mean, this second house of yours? Well, in your solar chart, it's ruled by Gemini, and in your birth chart, it's ruled by Taurus, your own sign. It's very much about holding on and hanging on to money and possessions, and also houses, land, and apartments. You are, of course, the famous bull of the zodiac. You dig your heels on and you do not move. You are very hard to shift. Once you have made your mind up about your personal life budget, it takes a great deal for people to buy you out, negotiate with you, or even ask you to alter your value system to fit theirs. So what's happening here is pretty important for you. It's really the biggest change that you've seen in some time, and it's going to require a bit of thought for you to make necessary alterations without giving way too much and losing your foothold on the situation. You are also an earth sign, grounded, down to earth, practical, and we shall not be moved is usually your motto when it comes to money. But what you're being asked to do at the moment is pretty different. You're going to have to hang a price tag on freedom. Gemini. Well, the ripples that spread out from the changes with your appearance, your brand, your name, reputational profile will extend for some time. The ripple effect is big as Uranus goes through Gemini. The original intention and energy behind your decisions about yourself has to be pure for it to work at its best. It has to be good for everybody, and it has to be useful. Well, when we say pure, we mean a need to be free, a need to be your own person, really. What is good for everybody in terms of your brand or your image? Well, it's you breaking with the past regarding your packaging or presentation that sets other people free on some level too. It's worth looking at Uranus and Gemini in your first house in more detail. This planet is associated with things that happen out of the blue in astrology. It's very much about lightning strikes. It's about electrical storms. And in fact, it rules electricity. Your first house is where you front up, you go to the front line, and you stand up and are counted, and you are all front, basically. That's what it's all about. So you put those two together, and what you have ongoing since April is one change after another. You may find yourself doing or saying the last thing that you expected or being profiled in a completely new level, and there's more to come this week. Cancer. This Gemini cycle will strongly influence your approach to religion, psychics, tarot, counseling, hypnosis, dreams, chakras, auras, angels, crystals, meditation, psychologists and psychiatrists, your inner life. It's a 12th house transit. It works both ways as well. If you have anything in Pisces in your birth chart, then in the last days of July, you are coming to the major end of a chapter with all of that. Whatever your personal horoscope looks like, you'll find one or two areas on the list that I've mentioned become a more urgent priority from June 29, when Mars also goes into Gemini. So July as a whole looks like you making decisions about how much to change and how fast. It's very common with this cycle to find that something or someone sets you free when you take it up or follow it. But equally, if you have felt hidebound or restricted by anything on that list, whether it was religion or whether it was self-help, for example, you are now at a point where you are prepared to cut loose and in many ways get rid of the past and leave it far behind you. These things happen suddenly on this transit. Mars and Uranus together are a bit like fireworks and they come from nowhere. Leo. Friends and groups are now at the heart of a Mars and Gemini cycle. The Mars rules apply. Just because you or somebody else is getting all hot and bothered does not mean the principle at stake is worth the pile of mud that will result if either of you lets the situation go further. Slow down, reduce the need for speed and action. What is far more interesting is the new freedom on offer socially, with social media, with a group, or in your social life. Independence days, plural, are waiting for you, Leo. Mars and Uranus in Gemini in your 11th house from June 29 show you a necessary break with the past. If friends or others in the group are crowding you or cramping your style, you will be in a position to separate yourself. Equally, this is the sort of cycle when, as you have already seen once in a major way over the last few weeks, a new group or a new collection of people, perhaps a new friend or ally, can give you far more independence than you had before. The unpredictable in your life makes life far more interesting than it was before. And as a result of that, you may want to take another big decision this week. Virgo. If you have a full-time or part-time job, Virgo, a burning career issue will turn up now. It touches on a concern since the end of April, your own independence or that of others. Alternatively, it may be your boss, client, employee, colleague, or professional rival who starts to turn the universe sideways. As with all Mars in Gemini cycles, the things that you do and say now are vital, Virgo, because they will have a domino effect on your career, your status, and your success. And everything that I've said applies to your unpaid work or academia. Breaking free and being free is all unfolding. So what is this 10th house of yours? Well, Mars and Uranus and Gemini will both be there from June 29, and this is really new for you. It means that life will move more rapidly than you are used to, and there are questions here about being highly strategic. So if you are dealing with a situation now where you are feeling that there is no time and no tolerance, or somebody else is. What your horoscope is telling you to do is to come up with a game plan. Somehow you need to contain and control what is going on so that when you do get the space that you deserve and the independence that you want, it's achieved with as little hassle as possible. Libra. Foreigners, foreign countries, different cultures, travel, immigration, export, migrants, tourists, the web in translation, international students, bilingual teachers, and publishing are all on a very long list at the moment, lit up in your horoscope. Independence is calling you. If you're dealing with other people's temporary need to take action or push forward, you don't have to react. Things may be overheating this week or moving far too quickly. So this may be a foreign exchange student, for example, or it may be a different language plan. But whatever it is, this is the time for you to remember that balance is everything for Libra, and that without that kind of harmony and symmetry in your life, you tend to feel a bit jolted. So even though you have Mars and Uranus together in Gemini from June 29, and even though there is a revolution happening in stops and starts with foreigners and foreign countries, you don't necessarily have to react to everything that comes your way. Sometimes it's up to you to make the decision. If you need to make a radical break with the past, then nothing and nobody will stop you. But if it's not as extreme as that, Libra, you may want to come up with an alternative, which means that you can have the freedom without necessarily having sparks fly. Scorpio. This week is an historic turning point for your aims, goals, and ambitions, with Jupiter in Leo for the first time in 12 years, and Saturn and Neptune in Aries, all in the workload sectors of your chart. If you're retired, have full-time home duties, work for no money, or are unemployed, it's the same story, but it will be channeled through other areas of your life which relate to your long-term ambition, whatever that might be. Even if something from this week forward is an excellent idea, whether it's a new job, a union move, or a reshaped course, try and wait until July to see how big it could be. What it means to have Jupiter in your 10th house in Leo is that you can expand as far and as fast as you wish in July and August to start with, but you need to have a game plan to take you into the middle of 2027 as well, because this cycle lasts that long. Essentially, what you're doing now is picking up anything that you planted 12 years ago. So if you go back to your CV or see what you were doing as a student, whatever it was, something that you were seeding then is now ready to grow, and that's actually the ticket for you. If you didn't plant anything, or even if you just can't remember, you're likely to still see something or someone take off for you in quite a natural and organic way over the next 8 weeks. The more energy and time that you give the situation, the person, or the organisation, the better. It doesn't take much to see that this is a growing concern. Sagittarius. Well, Mars is about to go into your zone of partnership and also opposition from other people, the duet and the duel. It's there with Uranus in Gemini from June 29. Mars produces physical tension, which needs a safe container now. So whether it's walking or swimming, whether it's yoga or fencing or the gym, it will all help you, because this cycle is well known for producing issues. If you have anything or anybody that you would call the other side, of course, there's also your other half to consider, and sometimes the two cross over. So you end up having concerns with, for example, your husband or wife, your boyfriend or girlfriend. The other side of the scales doesn't have to be personal, though. On this transit, it can be professional or it can be totally platonic. But Mars and Uranus together requires a fair bit of thought, because it lands with a bang on June 29 and July looks really, really overheated. Of course, that's happening anyway in the Northern Hemisphere. People are seeing record temperatures. But what we're seeing in astrology, wherever in the world you are, is a kind of unnatural force and an unnatural pace that could be quite a shock for you or the other person. So when in doubt, you may want to pull it all back or do whatever it takes to make sure that the other person is also able to pull back from that point. The plus side of this cycle is that you will get more space. Capricorn. You'll be gripped by a workload or well-being goal now, according to your astrology chart, that you are excited and enthused about. You'll basically be all shook up. It's a flab jab blitz maybe, or a professional project. It's a diet, a new gym routine, a shared attack on a university course, or even a new unpaid plan to cook like a professional when you're not. Basically, you're only going to be limited by your imagination, Capricorn. This cycle's highly unusual, and it's associated with going to the left or the right, going sideways, tilting and pivoting in quite an extreme way. And it's very much about the work that you do and also the work that you put into yourself physically and mentally. At the moment, Mars and Uranus, both in Gemini, both in your 6th house from June 29, are helping you to get ready for something that you actually can't prepare for at all. The only predictable thing about it is that it's going to give you independence. So whether you need to cut loose from a particular doctor, for example, from smoking, from your boss, from a particular colleague, it's all being laid out for you, but in an uncertain way, even though the certainty is that you get to freedom at the other end. Knowing that will help you navigate this week and into July. Aquarius. There may be a parenting issue now where one or more people are feeling the heat. They are all revved up and ready, or they've got some vision or other about taking on some demanding target. Keep an eye on the babies, the infants, the children, teenagers and millennials who are in your world or on the fringes, because around June 29, Mars and Uranus together land with a bang. This is an unusual combination in the heavens in the 5th house of your chart, which is very much where you are supposed to be setting an example to younger people, where you are the queen or king to a younger court. However it's shaping up for you, you may or may not be a parent, maybe you're a teacher, for example, or perhaps a godparent. You have to understand that what's going on astrologically is unprecedented. In fact, all the U words, it's unique, it's unconventional, it's unpredictable, and all the rest of it. You being ruled by Uranus helps because you have an innate understanding of life zigzagging all over the place. And you also trust the process enough to know that at the end of the day, something had to change and the past had to fall away. That's exactly what's happening. Pisces. People around you at home, in the family, in the household, or involved with your house or apartment, maybe your land, want to attack their goals now. But don't take the bait. Bait snatching is not a good place to operate from, and nor is overheating. Managing previous Mars cycles in your zone of relatives, house, apartment, and real estate will help you sort out what's worth it and what's not. If ever the phrase choose your battles registered, it registers from June 29. That is when Mars joins Uranus in Gemini in the 4th house of your chart. So this 4th house usually is at the very bottom of the horoscope, and it's associated with where you come from. It's where you're held, where you find your security, your place in the world. It's where you come from in terms of your family and sometimes your ancestors, your class, your town or village, your neighborhood, your city, your country, and so on. This combination of Mars and Uranus, though, is not about finding permanence or finding a predictable life. It's very much about understanding that you and others want something that smells like freedom, and that is going to now take off at a rapid pace. That's all well and good, but with Mars in the mix, you really do have to pick your battles with other people or with large organisations and understand that Mars hangs around for all of July, as does Uranus. So pacing yourself and having some sort of strategy is a really good idea. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch up with you next week.